From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Hello and good morning. Thanks for tuning in to 1680 The Crow. I'm Abby Francis. Vancouver police are saying Randall Hopley, a high-risk sex offender, showed up outside a police station to turn himself in. Hopley was arrested yesterday by an officer who was about to start their shift at the downtown Eastside police station. Police say Hopley had cut his ankle monitor and left his halfway home 10 days ago, which caused a Canada-wide search. Hopley was sent to prison previously for 6 years in 2011 for the abduction of a 3-year-old boy in southeastern BC. The province of BC is testing their national alert ready system today. The test will be happening around 1:55 this afternoon, followed by a text message sent by provincial management. The BC test is one of many taking place in Canada today. These are some of the stories we are looking at this morning. Our producer Isaac Newson has more on what our newsroom is watching. Thanks for that, Isaac. The government of BC has ordered a man to pay $450,000 in firefighting costs and lost timber. Clark Mathieson had started a wildfire back in 2019 outside of his property west of Quinsnell, according to the BC Forest Commission. They say Mathieson is an arsonist, and the man had lit a 14-meter by 16-meter debris pile back on fire back in February of 2019. The commission says Mathieson thought the snow around the fire would work as a fuel break, but months later, the holdover from his fire had started a grass fire, which BC Wildfire Services responded to. The Vancouver City Council approved a youth safety and violence prevention strategy. Our reporter Jerison Orshin was there last night and spoke with a counselor on this grant program.
Building Safer Communities program to make youth feel safe in the city. However, an additional amendment on extending funding past 2026 was not approved. Also, another additional amendment changed its strategy on the basis of gun violence, where they would support and educate on the issue instead of addressing it. Councillor Pete Fry explains the reasoning for the amendment.
The material laid out by the federal government is pretty clear, and nowhere in this original amendment do I see prevention and intervention specifically acknowledged or the intent of this actual federal program.
For the next 3 years, $2.7 million will be used to fund youth programs and supports to reduce the amount of youth violence in Vancouver, which has been an issue since 1992. Jerison Rochon, 1680 The Crow.
The city says details on the grant's use will be released this Friday. Around 100 Vancouver police were sent to protect Prime Minister Justin Trudeau after protesters surrounded a restaurant he had been at. Protesters were calling on the Prime Minister for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war and had been waving Palestinian flags. Sergeant Steve Addison says a 27-year-old man from Coquitlam was arrested after he had punched an officer in the face during the incident. Thank you for tuning into 1680 The Crow. I'm Abby Francis. That was your 10 a.m. news.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Hi there, my name is Isaac Newson and welcome to For the Record. Today I had the opportunity to talk to Bob Lenarduzzi, Vancouver Whitecaps legend, current club liaison, and National Soccer Hall of Famer. Bob and I touch on last season's success, next season's expectations, and what the fans of Vancouver can expect. So sit back and enjoy. Thank you. I'll start things off right away with kind of just a simple question, but one that I'm super interested in your answer in, and that's kind of after a season this year where things are kind of up in the air as to whether it's a success or we want more. What do you think kind of the answer is to that, and do you see it as a flat out success, or can we expect more kind of next season, and what did we feel about this year?
Well, the team took another step in the right direction this season. I don't think anyone would suggest that it's been a great year, in spite of the fact that we did accomplish a Canadian Soccer Championship and qualified for the playoffs early. Got to the second round of the League's Cup against the Mexican opposition. So all of those things combined, I think, are a reflection of the fact that we competed. And what I'm excited about is that I think the Axel Schuster and his coaching staff and recruitment staff, if it's not as though the squad needs a makeover. It's the core of the squad, I think, is very good. We've got a couple of difference makers in Krubas and Gold, and so I think we're primed to ideally take that next step next year. And the next step is not hoping we qualify for the playoffs. It's nor is it assuming, but we have the talent to definitely get into the playoffs, and beyond that, then it would be great to have an extended run in the playoffs, which is something that isn't hard to come by in our MLS era.
Awesome, thank you. And you mentioned kind of the difference makers in, they just happen both to be kind of midfield players, but I want to focus a little bit more on Ryan Gould. You mentioned him, and kind of he has been the difference maker for a couple seasons now, I think. And for me, I think it's one where that's a player I think who has the quality to maybe go to a higher, more better regarded league in the world. But I think kind of how do you think that Vancouver can make sure that we keep a player like that and make sure he stays in the squad?
Well, I'm told that he loves it here in Vancouver, as does his partner, and it's one of the benefits that we have as a club from the point of view of a recruitment tool is our beautiful city. So tick that box, and beyond that, I think he's enjoyed himself here since his arrival. He's a very down-to-earth, quality individual. And when he's playing at his best, and we saw it throughout most of the season, he's the guy that if you need somebody to give the ball to unlock another team's defense, then he's that guy. So assuming he stays happy and loves it here in Vancouver, and we feel the same way that we'd love to keep him here, and there's no reason to really look beyond that at any other scenarios.
So kind of switching gears a little now, I want to focus a little more on the coach and Sartini, and how do you feel about the kind of job that he's done this year? It's been there's been changes throughout the year kind of frequently, but kind of what can you say about the job that he's done this season?
He's done a great job. We won for the second year in a row a Canadian championship, and made the playoffs and didn't just scrape in this time around. we were in a pretty good position with about 3 or 4 games left. And coaches have different ways of going about their business. Some are very laid back and make decisions, and you really don't see or hear from them. And there's others like Vanny who is passionate about the sport, and you can see that passion is evident, and it comes through virtually every game on the sidelines, at practices, in front of the media. And I think that that's something that provides us with another face to the club that people can relate to. So, I mean, I think he'd be the first to tell you, and he did after the playoff game, that he went a little bit too far with his comments regarding the official. But that happens sometimes, and I think if things happen and as a result you learn from them, and that's all of us go through that. It's when you don't learn from your mistakes that it's a problem. But I think in his case, he realizes that he went too far over the line.
And I want to touch on the playoffs just a little bit, just as you mentioned there. I think it was a tough first matchup, but do you think there's a sense of kind of pride from the players' perspective in terms of, we got beat by a good team, but we really did, turn up, and I think that second leg really showed that we belonged. Do you think there's a sense of pride coming from the players?
I think the players are, and everyone at the club and the spectators are all delighted with the fact that we gave them a run for their money. I mean, if you take the 4 halves of those 2 games, outside of the second half in LA, there wasn't a lot to choose between the 2 teams. And that's where we probably gave ourselves a bit of a mountain to climb, although it wasn't goal aggregate. But nevertheless, they ended up scoring 3 goals in that second half. But we rebounded from that, and the game back home was a game that was played right through the final whistle, with all sorts of excitement, good play, and controversy as well. But so I don't know if pride's the right word. I would think that they'd feel good about it, but I think they feel there's a lot more to achieve.
Yeah, awesome. And just to touch on kind of the other successes of the season, you mentioned the Canadian Championship. And I don't want to use the word pride again, but that trophy, I think, for a club like Vancouver to go back to back and win it again, I think it's super important. And do you think that's kind of an emphasis in the dressing room in terms of, we obviously want to give our all in the league, but we also want to kind of make sure we're in it and we're in this kind of championship back to back?
There's no doubt that that's one of the goals at the start of the season. It has been, again, from the time the competition started, and it's been around for quite a while. And the fact that we could win it 2 years in a row after a bit of a drought prior to that is and that is a source of Canadian pride, because you're the top of the heap in Canada, and on top of that, you find yourself in the CONCACAF Champions League. Now that's more games, but I think that's why the depth of the squad is important, because you need guys that are farther down the depth chart to be able to come in and do well. And I think that there's no doubt the number of games that we played this year, I don't think we would have been as competitive as we were if we hadn't had the depth of the roster. So it would be great to make it a hat trick next year with the Canadian Championship.
Yeah. We touched on it a little bit at the start, but going into next season, I think there's expectations for us, and I think, like you said, I mean, we don't just want to be scraping in the playoffs. We want to be making the playoffs and kind of cementing ourselves in that spot. Going into next season, do you think there's exceeded expectations in Vancouver, or do you think we're kind of on a similar trajectory and we want to achieve similar things next season?
I think that's the beauty of the game, is once you've taken a step to the next level, and you've done that in consecutive years, the expectation rises, and so it should. And so now you're not just comfortable scraping into the playoffs. you want to do that with points to spare, and then you want to be ready for that playoff run. And so expectations now are that ideally the next step is we're going to make a run in the playoffs, and that's not the easiest thing to do in the playoff format that we have, because all it'll take is a couple of slip-ups and you're on the outside looking in again. But there's no doubt that I think the players and the staff and the supporters and even the media are feeling like we have a group of players that are primed to take another step in the right direction, and that will be the objective for next season.
Thank you all so much for listening. That's been For the Record. Isaac Newsom, 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Trettanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good morning. Here's your sports headlines to 10:30. I'm Kobe Smith. Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson will be out of the remainder of the season with his throwing shoulder fracture. Watson fractured his shoulder during Sunday's win over Baltimore Ravens. Watson will undergo surgery to repair the fracture. The injury happened in the first quarter. He also injured his left ankle and stayed in the game and connected 14 for 14 on his passes in the second half, leading the Browns to a last-second win 33-31 over the Baltimore Ravens. The team says Watson expected to be back next season for his third season after signing the $230 million guaranteed contract. A man was arrested over a death of a hockey player. His neck was cut with a skate blade. The man has been released on bail. The police have not released his name of the person that has been suspicion of manslaughter. Here's reporter Tom Rivers on ABC News. From ABC News has more on the story.
Adam Johnson died last month after a hit in which he was struck in the neck by an opposing player's skate. South Yorkshire police say a man remains in custody after being arrested. The 29-year-old American was playing for the Nottingham Panthers against the Sheffield Steelers. His death has sent shockwaves throughout the hockey world. He played briefly in the NHL, college hockey at the University of Minnesota Duluth, and high school hockey at Hibbing on Minnesota's Iron Range. Tom Rivers, ABC News, London.
There was only 2 Canadian teams playing in the NHL last night. That was the Calgary Flames taking on the Montreal Canadiens. Nazem Kadri and Connor Zary scored 2 goals for the Flames. Here's the call on Zary's goal.
Martin Pospisil looks cool with that tinted Alexander Ovechkin-style visor. Here's Pospisil, far side, Anderson centers, Zary scores!
The Pittsburgh Penguins were taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Sidney Crosby recorded his 16th career hat trick during last night's game. Here's the call on his 3rd goal.
The line, coughed it up, Russ for Crosby for the HT, he scores! Throw the hats! A master class tonight from Sidney Crosby. He's got the hat trick in Columbus. That's the dagger.
The Penguins went on to win 5-3 over the Blue Jackets. The Vegas Golden Knights were taking on the Washington Capitals last night. The final score was Washington 3-0 over the Golden Knights. That was only Vegas' 3rd loss in the season. The Golden Knights are sitting in first place with 12 wins and 25 points. Draymond Green was ejected after putting Rudy Gobert in a headlock, and 2 other players were thrown out after an altercation. During the Golden State Warriors game, they were taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. The game was still scoreless and not even 2 minutes into the game. Golden State's Klay Thompson and Minnesota's Jaden McDaniels got into a shoving match near midcourt following a Timberwolves possession. Green rushed in and pulled Gobert away from behind his arm and around the neck. Here's Karl Anthony Towns explaining what happened.
I mean, I was just trying to crash for a rebound, and he kind of had grabbed me by my collar, and I was just trying to, defend myself, get him kind of off me, like a little bit, and, the rest is what it is.
Towns scored 33 points, sending Minnesota to a 104-101 win over Golden State. The Denver Nuggets were taking on the Los Angeles Clippers in the in-season tournament. The Nuggets beat the Clippers 111-101, keeping the Clippers winless since acquiring James Harden last month. Here's the Nuggets center Nikola Jokic on the game.
It's crazy, but we kind of think he can stop everybody, So, but Paul George is a great player, and it's really hard to stop him. And KCP did a couple times, so we are happy that we have him on our team.
The Indiana Pacers beat the Philadelphia 76ers to 132-126 win. Thanks for listening. I'm Kobe Smith, 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.